Hi there, I'm Suzanne, your friendly Stampin' Up demonstrator in Canada. Welcome to my monthly paper pumpkin alternative video on my YouTube channel and blog. I share 5 alternative ways to use the kit in this video, and I sell the products I feature as well. I hope you enjoy my free video tutorial and would love to see you sign up with me as a paper pumpkin subscriber. Visit sunstampin.com for more information. I'm going to start off this video by sharing with you the March special. Paper Pumpkin is turning 6, and we are celebrating by putting a free stamp set in the March kit. So if you haven't signed up yet, hey, I know somebody who's a demonstrator, would love to have you on board. But even if you are just sort of on the fence, March would be a good time to do it because you get a free stamp set. All right, so this is the new shrink-wrapped, new and improved Paper Pumpkin box. The kit, or the box that the kit comes in, it is now shrink-wrapped. It's shrink-wrapped for a couple of different reasons, and one of them, I think, is just to keep everything safe and sound inside the box. There's a little lip, so the box actually folds in on itself, not the other way around. And usually inside the box, we get sort of a little pamphlet telling you that what this Paper Pumpkin stamp set, it coordinates with another stamp set in celebration. It also gives us a stamp set, and this stamp set is lovely. And it comes with a little ink spot. This is Rococo Rose. I'm going to swap it out for my bigger one. Hope you don't mind. And then this is all the insides of the kit. This is how they come. They have a little tissue. Isn't that nice? And they've also reminded us of this free stamp set next month. So hopefully everybody has gotten on that, understands that if you sign up before March 10th, you will get a free stamp set as well as your stamp set from the Paper Pumpkin. So this is the instructions. One of the nice things that I like about the instructions is that there is a ruler on the bottom, and on the back it does tell you the coordinating Stampin' Up colors, and that's always handy if you want to do alternatives like I do. So these are all the goodies that came in the kit, and here is card number 1. I have my Rococo Rose ready to go, the sentiment ready to go, and this is the foam that the words came in. So there are, like, it's almost like a thicker. It is sticky on one side and it's foamy, and it doesn't have sticky on the other side. So it's only one side sticky, and I'm taking a large pair of scissors and I am cutting as straight as I can these little lovely strips. Why, Sue, are you doing that? Well, thanks for asking. It's because I plan to make a shaker card. And I know some of you probably thinking, well, how do I make a shaker card? And some of you are like, oh, that's so yesterday. Shaker cards used to be all the rave. And, you know, I'm bringing it back. That's what I'm doing. All right. So I have cut this, the first part of my designer series paper. It was like the card base, really, of one of the cards in the kit. And I have cut it down to 3 3/4 square. And I'm going to cut a frame out of it, and I'm going to show you how I'm doing it. So I am lining up my trimmer blade. So I put the paper in and I make it to about just at 1/4 of an inch. Then I take my trimmer blade and I'm going to start cutting at 1/4 in. So, and I push the trimmer blade all the way to and stop just shy, so 1/4 inch shy of my paper edge. And I'm going to do that along all 4 sides. And basically what this is going to do is going to cut a square out of the square, really. The frame itself is going to be 1/4 inch, and that's what I need to make my shaker card. And I did do not too badly with this, with cutting this, I gotta say, I have told everybody that I would let you know when I am changing the blades on my trimmers, and I have not changed them since I got it. So it's one of those, I have cut it perfectly, so no need to change it yet. And that's been going on since November. So gotta say, I haven't cracked into my new trimmer blades. All right, and I used the second part of that card base from the kit, and I cut that down to 4 inches square. And then I cut my Whisper White thick card stock down to a 4 1/4 folded by 4 1/4 sized card. I'm using tear tape to adhere to the back of that pink stripey, and I'm also using tear tape for the frame here. And tear tape is a lovely dry adhesive. I prefer it as opposed to wet adhesive. The thing is, it's a little bit bigger than 1/4 inch. So as I take the release paper off, you can see a little bit of that adhesive hanging over, and that's not a problem. There's a little trick. Basically, you just fold it on over itself, and it will, if you're telling it that you're the boss, and it will listen. Surprisingly, it might be the one and only thing that's going to listen to you today, but it will be that adhesive. You just fold it on over itself and it works perfectly. So now that I have that, I've taken 3 3/4 square piece of window sheet. Now, if you don't have window sheet, you can go ahead and use the packaging from the stamp set. It has the printed side, and then there's a clear side. You could use that if you wanted to give this a go. Now I am adhering. I've taken the release paper off of that foam, and I am adhering the foam behind the 1/4 inch frame. And I will have to put adhesive on the rest of the foam, but the one, like I said, the one side was sticky, so I can adhere that to the frame and have no problems. And I want to butt everything up on the edges here, even that little extra bit there. I have to make sure that it's all covered. And now I am just going to put glue on. I will end up putting glue on that foam. Now I have to take the release paper off of my, I guess this would be the stripy pink paper that I got from the card kit. And the nice thing about tear tape is that you can pull off like it doesn't come on a roll or anything. It does come on a roll, but it has release paper on it. So it's not going to stick to you until it's ready to stick to you, if you know what I'm saying. All right, so there's a bag of little sequins, and these sequins, I actually saved a little bit of them, and then I added some more from my stash. They are iridescent sequins from something or other. I just dumped the whole thing in there. And then I moved it around with my take your pick tool to try to flatten them out, because there's nothing more annoying than having a big lump in the middle of your shaker. And now I'm going to put my wet adhesive, and I did that's what that orange cloth is off to the right. That is, it took fingerprints off of my window sheet. That's nothing worse than having a fingerprint right on where you don't want it. So I take care to wipe things down. And you look how shiny. Sorry for the reflection there, you guys. All right, so I did use the multi-purpose glue, wet glue, so I am giving it some time. And I'm shaking it around, and everything is shaking, and it's working, and it's not coming through. So yay. All right, so I used the birthday stamps that came in the kit, and then I'm going to use the wishes. I'm going to call these thickers from now on, okay? Because they're stickers, but they're thick, so they're thickers. So I put the wishes thicker on, and now just a little bit of tear tape adhesive. You could use glue too, whatever you got. And that's the one other thing, that the tool that is absolutely handy is the take your pick tool. All right, it says birthday wishes, and it's a lovely shaker card. And please note how lovely these photos turned out. When you have a shiny thing and you have to film and take pictures at night and there's lights all around, it is very difficult to take photos. So I'm just saying, it was a marvel. All right, so these are the supplies I'm going to use for my next card, card number 2. I'm going to rip apart that envelope, and like I do in every fashion, I like to rip apart the envelopes. I use every little bit of that paper pumpkin kit. So you can see what I did there. I used Memento Tuxedo Black ink because I am going to use my blends markers. Of course, if you didn't have blends markers and all you have is pencil crayons or felt pens or ink pens or watercolor pencils or paint, whatever, have fun, color your birthday cake to match your card design. I am using, I think that was Pool Party, because I got the hint from the directions and it told me that there was coordinating colors. So I also used some yellow. This was so saffron, I believe. And then I brought out the Rococo Rose because that was the main color of the ink. So I thought it would be handy to have the Rococo Rose as well. I love blends markers because they are alcohol markers. They blend really well. You can go from and add some shadows and add some extra details. It's not as flat as coloring with an ink marker or a felt pen, and you can just get a little bit more dimension, a little bit more realistic. So I am fussy cutting these cakes out, and normally, I mean, I've often said if I'm going to take the time to color one, I might as well color two. So I didn't know what I was going to do with which one I was going to choose on this card. So I gave myself a couple of options, and it will just make it easier for me for the next card that I design if I have, the coloring already done. Here I am ripping apart this envelope. I did it decently carefully. I used my trimmer to trim everything down. I trimmed that piece down to 4 by 5 1/4. And I actually did, and I was very careful when I cut. So I try to save all the bits and pieces left over because I don't know what I'm going to require for my future alternative cards. And of course I do a tutorial bundle with a whole bunch of ladies, and my Paper Pumpkin subscribers get that tutorial as well. So I actually have to make more than just 5 alternatives. I'm usually making, I don't know, about 8 or 9. So I don't know what I'm going to use. So I always try to keep everything together. So here I am just trimming it all down, and I try to keep as much of my extras as possible. So I just use wet glue here, and this is a Whisper White thick card base. I'm always using the white card bases. I like them. For me, I guess I'm a clean and simple person. I'm still trying to figure out my style. I've been stamping for, 7 years. And I think sometimes I'm, simple and clean. And then sometimes I get overly into coloring, and, it's out the window. I don't even know what style I am. Okay, well, anyway, this style is nice and clean. It's also more masculine than the others. So I had a stitched circle just on my desk, so I was able to just incorporate that. I wanted something different to give a little bit of like a break between the cake and the stripy paper. A circle works, a square would work too, whatever you got. And then I used the Celebrate Thicker for this one, and I put a little Wink of Stella on the icing. So Wink of Stella looks like sugar to me, so it's nice to add a little bit of frosting. Okay, moving on to card number 3. I have 3 colors here. I have Pool Party, I have Old Olive, which I'm stamping off and I have Pretty Peacock. So what I'm doing is I'm stamping off my old olive and I'm stamping on my Whisper White Thick card base. This is the card base that I use for all of my alternatives. I have suggested time before that if you want to duplicate any of mine, you might as well buy yourself a nice package of Whisper White Thick. I initially did that was Pool Party, and the second one was Pretty Peacock. I stamped off on the Pretty Peacock. And then I have stamped the you're a great reason to celebrate. That was one of the sentiments that came in the kit. I had a little bit of that, the strip of the extra thicker that I used in the first card for the shaker card. So I'm actually just going to use it as dimensional adhesive. So I'm cutting the your off, and then I cut off a great, and reason 2 is separated. And then I went in and I figured, well, what happens if a person has already used all the thickers? So I stamped again the word celebrate, and I'm going to put a dimensional adhesive on that as well. You can see this is also a more masculine card, or a very simple card, not too blingy. I've put the dimensional adhesive on the back, and now I'm just using my wet glue, and I'm going to plunk these down so it does give a little, and I'm putting the words a little bit cattywampus, crooked, because there's, I'm not going to be able to get it straight. So I might as well embrace the fact that I'm, going to do it crooked. Thank goodness that my clients don't hear me describing card making, because they'd be like, Sue, when you cut my hair, please be accurate. And I am accurate when it comes to cutting hair, just not necessarily making very straight sentiments. All right, so that is a very simple card. Moving on to card number 4, and this is not a simple card. This is a little bit more technique driven. I have Memento Tuxedo Black ink here. I also have Whisper White stamping weight paper. I am inking up that flower, the rose, and then I'm using this is called a masking paper. I got it from Inka Dinka Doo. You could use a Post-it note, however, whatever you got. I stamped it, and I also fussy cut it out so that my next flower I can stamp over top. And the trick of this is anything you mask off is going to be the first and foremost that you're going to see. So that rose in the corner is going to be full and lush, and the one that I've just stamped is going to be behind it. And I'm also stamping off to the left, and I will stamp that guy. And I actually didn't need to leave the mask on here, but I thought I was going to, and I ended up not needing it. I guess I needed it just for that one, the little bud that's coming along. But I moved this whole mask, and then I put it on this flower, and then I end up not even stamping near that flower. I stamp slightly differently. But hey, you've got all the time in the world. I should have cut that out of the video, you guys. Sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, so I've stamped this little guy. I was going to do it there, but then I ended up doing it there, stamping it down there, giving a little bit of foliage there at the edge of the card. And I also did one above as well. So this might be boring for you to see, but maybe some people might find it helpful. Feel free to skip ahead, but I'm going to be using my watercolors, my watercolor pencils to color this particular flower. I've sped it up as fast as I can so that it won't go too far, and I can talk all the way through it if you'd like. Basically, what I'm doing is I am using, I think this was Flirty Flamingo, this one. It could have been Mango Melody. I'm not, nope, Melon Mambo, but I'm not 100% sure. I know that one's Rich Razzleberry. Anyway, doesn't matter. Pick the colors that you like, and you can see what I'm doing. I'm leaving a lot of white space. So where the petals naturally would get the most shade is where I'm coloring. And this is a trick with watercolor because you can always go back once it's dry, but it's kind of hard to remove when, I mean, it's not impossible, but it just means more work, right? So what I'm doing is just coloring up where the petals would find the most depth or the most shade, and leaving the edges light. Now that's actually a really nice look right there. I don't have to, go any further. I could just let it go. Just leave it like that. And that would be a really cool look. And you know, especially if you don't have a watercolor, a paintbrush or a blender pen, but I am going, or some people use, and I do use Gamsol when I use my my regular colored pencils. I have to always think of that because the Americans who watch this, they don't call them pencil crayons. Here in Canada, we call them pencil crayons, and Americans call the pencil crayons colored pencils. So, and they also say decal weird. I just found that out. Somebody was like talking about a decal, and I'm like, what the heck is a decal? We have decals here in Canada where you put a decal on a window or a decal on, what's a decal? Anyway, there are slight differences between Canadians and Americans, and it's usually in our inflection and some of our speech. Moving on. Here I have my blender pen, and what I'm doing is the blender pen is like this, has this lovely moistening agent. It's not water, so it's not going to pill on your paper unless you really saturate it. But by picking up the color at the edge of the petals or the inside of the petals and moving them to the outside, it's not going to pill this paper. And this is not watercolor paper. This is Whisper White Thin, regular weight stamping paper. And all I am doing is moistening the inside of the petal and moving it to the outside. I try not to go over it too many times because it will pill if you go over the spaces too many times. Anyway, moving that color along. So you can see that I'm getting depth where I wanted to. Some of the petals are lighter, some are darker. If I find that I've got too much color on my blender pen, I will scribble it off, and that's why I have the grid mat. And that grid mat, I'm telling you, it's the small grid mat, super awesome investment. I do recycle all of my papers, so you know, when this one gets really grody, I can rip it off and recycle it. But it is really handy to have an absorbent mat or paper underneath your blends coloring, but it also is very handy when you're working with a blender pen like I just was, and I was able to scribble that off. Here is one of the card bases, and it is, I don't even know what color it was, to be honest. I've recycled my instruction sheet, but this was one of the card bases in the card. So I've put my little art piece on the front of that, and now I'm going to adhere it all the way to a Whisper White thick card base. That means that I just have the sentiment to do. I stamped in Memento Tuxedo Black ink the congratulations. I was going to do a very big piece of white, and I was going to matte it, and it just did not go. Like, with the flowers that are kind of delicate, I ended up fussy cutting the sentiment out and adhering it to an extra little piece that I cut off probably from the first card, my shaker card. And then I used a little bit of the foam that was there. And once I adhered it to the card, I wanted to trim it down a little bit. So boop, that side goes and the actual left side goes too. So oh, and then of course I started with, this is the best way to do decoration. So embellishment. And I have gotten compliments on the embellishment. And it's like, oh, it's so random. Yes, it's because I just throw the sequins on the card, remove the ones that look stupid, and then just, go where nature takes it. So there is not a lot of thought process when it comes to putting my sequins down, especially when there's a lot. I just sort of dumped the package, shook it about a bit, removed some that were bugging me, and then I take my fine tip glue pen, which you'll find in the Stampin' Up catalog. If you don't have a Stampin' Up demonstrator, I'm more than happy to help you. And I dotted it right next to where the sequins were. And now I'm picking up my take your pick tool. It's got a gummy end on one side and a pokey end that I take off and I sort of chopstick. It's like card surgery almost. I'm picking up the sequin and I am holding it down with the pointy end. So I'm double duty there. And making sure that all my sequins get glued down properly. And it takes a minute or so for that fine tip glue pen to harden up. So I'm careful when I'm folding the card. And look, it's a lovely, very random, but works well. Like it's just the way it's supposed to be, I think. All right, card number 5. This is my last and final card. There's also 2 stills of pictures of cards that actually didn't make it into this cut today. I'll share them with you. I'm not really fond of them, and that's the reason why I did not do them. I did not share how I did them. So I have the... it's hard to say what these were. There were circles that were from the card base, that it was like an extra piece. So I know everybody's going to have these. When I design these cards, I'm thinking, well, I've got the stamp left over. I've got some of the extra bits left over. What everybody else, if you actually did make the kit the way it was supposed to, these are the parts that you were going to have left over. What I did there was I took my marker pen and I flicked it in the lid and I got some confetti spray on my card. It was just a little extra. You don't have to do that. It's completely optional. I've glued down these circles that were the negative pieces of the card bases from the kit. The little strip there came from that masculine birthday cake with the circle. There was an extra piece left over. I'm popping this third, I don't know what you want to call it, pokey circle. Is that even a thing? And then here's the extra birthday cake. Remember I said that I would make 2 instead of just doing 1? Well, there it is. I used it. And of course I stamped have a and then birthday as well. So I am taking a little bit of dimensional adhesive. I cut a little strip from my Stampin' Dimensionals and I've put that behind the word lovely, which I fussy cut out. Sorry for all the fussy cutting, you guys. It's just what I do. When you don't have a die, you have to do what you got to do. I put my lovely, don't worry, I did put it a little straighter, and I have glued down have a. There I'm straightening out the lovely, and then I tuck in birthday underneath it. And then when I looked at this, I went, well, okay, so I've got the have a lovely birthday in the circle, and then I've got the birthday cake in the circle, but the other circle is naked. So I did have a few extra sequins and I just dumped them out. And then I did the same thing with my fine tip glue pen. I cut that out of the video so you didn't have to watch it twice. You're welcome. And I am cutting off the excess here. And that was my contribution for the alternatives for this month. I don't even remember what it's called. Lovely as a day or something. Anyway. Thank you so much for watching. I've had a little too much coffee today. Anyway, have a great day. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. On screen are 2 more videos for inspiration. Click on the maple leaf for my blog, or click on me to subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for watching.